The opinions and views expressed in the following program are those of the speakers and the host, and do not necessarily reflect those of Yoakley Scott Corporation and your sports network.
Yeah, I've been closer to Jesus before, so can you help me out? Oh, can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Can you help me out? I've been scared to look in my soul. I've been afraid I would follow the road. Yeah, afraid of the things I've been told.
And hello, everybody. Welcome inside a Wednesday episode of Running Point on YSNLive.com, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. Anthony Hartwig alongside, pointing the wrong way, Gary Leininger to my right, Scotty Mitchell down below.
Gary Altizer.
Yeah. Oh, did I say Leininger?
Yes, you did. That's okay.
I'm so used to saying our photographer. It has nothing to do with him being a 49ers fan. I swear. We're not starting with that. We're not going to fight each other. We're going to be civil and professional, maybe at the end, a little bit. Duke it out. I always said I'm glad that Gary's not in person because he might decide to show me some wrestling moves. So, welcome to Wrestling Wednesday, episode 10. Man, we're in double digits, guys. Double figures for Wrestling Wednesdays. How are we feeling? Let's start with Gary. What's your day like? What are we doing today?
Today, I'm just trying to finish up some stuff that I have to do for this weekend. It's actually our home wrestling tournament this Saturday, February 10th, is the Buck Bailey Memorial Tournament at Wellsville. It used to be called the Wellsville Invitational. It's been around for a long time, over 30 years. But a few years ago, they decided to change the name to the Buck Bailey because Buck Bailey was the biggest Wellsville wrestling supporter that we ever had. He would follow the team around wherever we would go to wrestle. He would come and watch. I mean, sometimes we were driving a couple of hours down deep into West Virginia, and him and his family would come and support. So they changed the name to the Buck Bailey Memorial Tournament. His wife and family, they come and help pass out the awards at the end of the tournament. So it's something nice to do in memory of somebody who supported us for a very long time. So I'm just trying to get some things wrapped up there, nail down some volunteers, get some paperwork done, and communication with the tournament director and my athletic director.
Not only was he a great supporter of Wellsville, but that name just rolls right off the tongue for a tournament.
Yeah.
Too. So he's lucky there because, it might have been harder if he had like a Russian name. So he's like Servlov Jerpakian.
There are tournaments like that. I promise.
I know that's in wrestling, it's a lot of, obviously Russia has a lot of history when it comes to the sport. Scotty, what's on your plate today? How are you doing today, bud?
I am fighting a bit of a cold, but
you and me both. Like if I sound kind of stuffed today, I just woke up today and I was sniffling and stuffy. So you and me both. I hope it's not anything major. I hope it just goes away with some sinus pills. But you and me both, buddy.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but I'm really excited. I can't believe this is week 10 already. We've been doing this over 2 months now, but this is a great time of year. A lot to look forward to for sure.
Season 3, episode 10. So we are on our third year, 10 episodes. But we're gonna have to count one of these years on how many episodes we actually have as a whole, because I'm interested now. Gary, we have wrestling to talk about. The state duels got underway over the weekend with districts, and we have all the results in from districts, some YSN teams with some successful weekends. Go over the results from the state duels over the weekend.
So to participate in the state duels, you have to score in the top, I believe, 8 in the district, and they only count, from the way I understand, they only count your returning wrestlers. So your seniors' points don't count, but everybody else does because you'll, in theory, be returning them. So they want the best teams to come. So not everybody gets to do it now. It used to be by if you chose to go, you could go and get matched up, and they would have a lot more teams that do it. But I think they figured out a way to kind of alleviate the decision, because you have teams coming in, pulling out, whatnot. So they just take the top 8 teams from each district, I believe, will go, and in that they fight for 2 spots. So each division, there's 3 divisions, have 8 teams left now. If I'm screwing that up on the details, please forgive me. But Division 1, the only YSN team was Austintown Fitch. So they were there. They were able to win their opening round match over Washington 50-19. But then they had to wrestle Brecksville. And Brecksville is an amazing wrestling program. They're not only an amazing Ohio program, but they're even a national program. And they went down to them 62-11. Edgewood and Hubbard met up. So you had 2 YSN teams matching up there. And Edgewood was able to come out 47-31. But then they went out to eventual champion Buckeye in the next match. And that was Division 2. Also in Division 2 at the Steubenville district, Beaver Local went down to Miami Trace 34-31 in a really close match there. And then in Division 3, we had Jackson Milton was able to get in a couple of matches. They lost to Orville 54-24, and then Massillon Tuslaw 47-30. South Range was in as well. They went down to Roachtown 60-22, but were able to pick up a consolation win over Crestwood 42-27. So unfortunately, none of the local teams or the YSN teams were able to make it to the state tournament this year. But there's been a lot of success with YSN teams in the recent past, as we know that South Range won a state title doing that. Beaver Locals had some success. I think they finished as high as 3rd in the state. But this year it just wasn't in the cards for the local teams.
And you said it when you went down with what the format is for this tournament. It's tough. Like you have to be one of the 8 teams, just regardless in the division, and then you have to go and beat the top 8 teams,
right?
Finish top 2 to get into state. So it's not an easy feat to get to state. It's not something that you can just go and do. I know basketball, there's a little leeway. Obviously, everyone gets in. But you can win a couple of tournament games. You can go win a district, and I'm not saying that's easy, but it's a lot easier than maybe winning a regional going to state. With wrestling, it says like, hey, here's the 8 of the best teams. It's pretty much you're already in the regionals,
right?
And good luck. Roll the dice. Try to see if you can get someone on their bad day. And Beaver Local almost did.
Yeah, they lost a close one there, and the difference in with wrestling, there are 2 different state champions that they
right.
give out as far as the teams go. One is the dual meet championship, and you'll see sometimes it'll be the same teams, but a lot of times it's not. Having a solid lineup from 106 pounds to heavyweight, all 14 weight classes, being solid at every weight class is what makes a great dual team. You could have 0 state champions or even 0 state placers in that lineup, but still be a great dual team. Whereas in the individual tournament, there are points that are scored by each wrestler throughout the tournament. So you could have, in theory, a team of 5 or 6 guys, and they all make it to the state tournament. 3 of them win a state championship, the others place, and you are the state champion with less than half of a full roster. Right. So it is a different game. It's almost entirely a different game. But I know at least in Division 3, the favorites are the Barnesville Shamrocks, and they're the favorites to win the dual and the individual tournament. They are just loaded from top to bottom, but you don't see that very much, especially in the smaller class there, Division 3.
So now in the state, there are 8 teams left in each division, right? 2 from each district, so 8 total.
Yes.
So when
upper and lower bracket.
When you talk about the teams that won, I don't know how much you know about these non-YSN teams that won all the districts in our districts. Do you see any of them that are like that, like you were talking about, where they have just a really good roster, but maybe they won't have as many players that go on and place or win state?
So Louisville was one of them. Louisville won one of the the districts there. Steubenville Big Red won one. I'm trying to think off the top of my head here. I think Massillon Perry won one. Of them, they all have good teams, and they all should probably be in the top 8 in the state. I would think it'll be interesting. I can't think of any right off the top of my head that might not, that might do well in this, but not do well in the state tournament. I can't think of any right off the top of my head. It would be an upset if Barnesville were not to win either one of them. I will say that. Steubenville Big Red was actually losing to Indian Valley, and it came down to the heavyweight match. And they were down 3, and their heavyweight caught the heavyweight from Indian Valley in a move and was able to pin him with 2 seconds left in the first period to get the win. It was a pretty exciting one. I know some of the coaches down there at Big Red, and the videos of those guys going nuts on the side when that happened. That's great to see in the sport. That's what builds the team aspect of the sport. It is an individual sport,
right?
But in duels, and I'm glad that the state's doing this because it does bring the excitement to the sport. It brings the team aspect. It can bring, some rivalries or some, more kids out that want to be a part of the team because they want to be a part of something like that. Those are the things that are fun to see. We saw that with South Range when they won the state tournament. It came down to our very own Chris Galucci, who was able to pancake his kid right to his back at that 215-pound weight class and pin to get the win and give them the their first state championship.
And the other thing it does, Gary, with having both these tournaments is it acknowledges that there's two kind of ways to have a good wrestling team. And like you point out, you can have a really good roster with kids that may not place in state, but it's still a solid roster from every weight division. And it says, hey, teams that are built like that, you have a chance to now go win a state championship yourself.
Yes, exactly. And locally, I've seen that happen a lot of times. Like Liberty, Coach Haiti always had a good roster top to bottom. He always had a lot of kids out for the team. And they always had great dual records. I think his career dual record, he has a really, really good dual record. And that's a testament to him and Ryan, the coach now, Brian Williams, and their staff, because the kids like them and they come out for the team. Salem was the same way. Salem's always got a bunch of kids on that team. They've got 40-something kids. Now, this year is a little different for them. From top to bottom, they're pretty solid. I mean, they won the EOWL. So they'll be a team that it's too bad that they couldn't wrestle in this district tournament right here, because I think they could have made some noise in Division II. But that's a team that has always traditionally been pretty good at duels. But now I think they've got some individuals that they might be taking a few guys to state this year.
Now, since you said that the returning wrestlers don't go into your qualifying, do you think next year maybe Salem's a team that could qualify for the states now that they haven't had such a good year this year?
Well, it'll depend on the district, how they do in the district tournament. But yes, I absolutely could see that, because they aren't a senior. They have some seniors on the team, but they're not. They've got some good younger kids too. So it doesn't take the points into account from the seniors. So they should be able to do well. I would not be surprised to see them back here next year. We're talking about them in this tournament.
All right, Gary. So when we look at what's ahead, obviously I want you to talk a little bit more about the teams that are coming to Wellsville this weekend and what you expect out of the Buck Bailey, because it's your tournament. We want you to gas it up.
We've got a lot of YSN teams coming. United Local, East Palestine, Columbiana, Southern Local. We've got South Range coming. We've got some schools that are from out of the area. Akron North is coming down. Steubenville Big Red, Oak Glen, Steubenville Catholic Central. So we got a mix of teams from up north and teams from down south here, down this way. We've got some West Virginia teams coming. And we chose this date because we originally had the last Saturday in January picked every year, but that turned out to run into the EOWL. It turned out to run into a tournament down my way here at Buckeye Local, and then another one down this way called the Brook Tournament. And so teams were pulled in too many directions. So we thought really hard about what weekend we wanted. The weekend before that was the OVAC tournament. That was out of question. So we thought, why not do the week after the district tournament for the duels? The only teams that wouldn't be able to come would be the ones that are going to the state tournament. So we knew there wouldn't be a lot of those, and we're going to have a great turnout, 15, 16 teams, all local teams coming, and Salem's coming as well. It's going to, I'm hoping that everybody brings as many kids as they can, and we can get a nice turnout and, get to showcase some local teams here in Wellsville.
When you're assembling the schedule, or I shouldn't say the schedule, the bucket of teams that are coming, is it every year schools will reach out first come first serve, or is it kind of invite where you say, hey, we want this team here, and you reach out to them and say, do you want to come to the Buck Bailey?
Well, we got teams that always come, so we do send out the invite, let them know the date, and then we fill in from there. If it's ever we are at 16 teams now or something like that, we couldn't do many more than that, really. I mean, if it was to get to 20 teams, we'd probably be at our limit. So, and at this time of year, though, the rosters are smaller than they are at the beginning of the year, just because of things happen. Kids get injured. There are kids that quit, and then the grades come out. There are some kids that are ineligible. So we haven't had to do anything like that. It's just an unfortunate part of the sport, and every sport has that. You get to this part of the season right now in basketball. I'm sure there are teams that have lost, players, and we know that happens in football as well. So yeah, I guess it is. We invite, and then if people reach out, we allow them to come in. And if we feel like we have some open spots, I'll send out an email or make posts on some of the message boards, and we'll get feelers out that way. But we've not had to turn anybody away, thankfully.
That's always good, and you're, like you said, you're almost at your limit, which has to feel good to you, knowing that you have a tournament that is almost at capacity when it comes to teams that want to come down to Wellsville and wrestle. We do have wrestling on the network this week as well. We were supposed to have wrestling tonight, but Beaver Local and Howland has been canceled. So if you were planning on either watching or going to Beaver Local and Howland tonight, that has been canceled. Beaver Local letting us know that a couple of hours ago. Don't know why. Didn't really get a reason, but just that it has been postponed or canceled. No makeup date has been announced yet. But we do have 3 wrestling duels tomorrow. It's a big night for wrestling on the network. Chris Colucci will be in Salem for West Branch Salem. That's the rivalry. That's, you get up for that. It doesn't matter what sport you're playing. When you're playing West Branch or you're playing Salem, it's red versus green. It's let's go. It's go time, right? Green means go. Red means stop. Which one's going to win out on Thursday? We have Edgewood, who, like you said, had a very successful weekend at the state duels. They had a win there, down there in districts. They will be hosting Geneva. Larry Jennings will have the call there. And then Orange also has a home duel against Beechwood. So that will be done by the school's broadcast network. So 3 wrestling matches, all broadcasted tomorrow. Big night on the network.
That's great to see, great to hear. I love it. I hope that it just continues to grow like this. Getting more guys involved. I don't know how many of our announcers have experience with wrestling, but if they ever want to come with me or with Chris to learn, they definitely can do that. I don't think that they would be disappointed if they came and learned how things worked and got into the sport, because once you realize or you learn the rules, you learn the scoring, and even if you've got a team that you follow, you really start to get into it, and you become one of those crazy people in the stands that you see pictures of.
And here's another thing I'll say. If you get someone that knows it with you as the color commentator and you're just a play-by-play, this is just for broadcasters out there that might be interested. You don't have to know every in and out of the sport. You just know how to have to call sports well and just know like the basic words to say, the lingo for wrestling. If you can nail that and then you get a partner with you that knows the sport, you can put together a really big broadcast. I think some people, not everywhere, YSN, and probably even at the bigger levels too, when they get assigned a new sport, it can be intimidating if you've never heard anything about it or you don't know the rules or whatever. But like Gary said, just go to one match for yourself and take it in, as someone who knows wrestling, what's going on. And really, for a play-by-play, that should be enough, especially if you bring someone in with you that can fill in the gaps. You don't have to be an expert to be a good play-by-play commentator for a sport.
Absolutely not. I mean, I dove in head first with volleyball. I didn't know the first thing about volleyball when I first started doing it, and I just started to learn on the fly. and you do enough games, just like with anything, you'll pick it out. You'll watch YouTube videos of college matches, and you'll hear the guys, you'll hear the terms that they use, and you'll start to learn. Every sport. I think every sport can be exciting. The more you learn about it, the better you know the sport, and you know what things are important and what things to watch out for. It becomes easier.
It's funny that you bring up volleyball because when people ask me how to call volleyball, the first thing I tell them is the words that are buzzwords for me. They're cringe words when I watch them. I was like, don't say spike. No one in actual volleyball says the word spike. It's a backyard word. It's not a spike. It cringes me when volleyball people say spike when they're talking about indoor, six player volleyball. What is a cringe word or something that you've heard maybe an announcer that didn't do their homework jump on a wrestling broadcast? What is something that is cringe for you that all announcers should avoid?
Wow. DJ Oakley one time called a serve a knuckleball because it didn't have much spin on it, and it kind of went flat. Sometimes you've probably seen this a million times too. Sometimes a serve will come across the net and then just die and go straight down. Those are great serves, but the ball didn't move much, and he called it a knuckleball. We started calling it that, but we just did it as a joke. I wouldn't do that on a regular basis because I doubt the volleyball community would appreciate that.
Oh, they love it. Because really, it's a float serve is the technical term for it, but
Yeah.
the whole idea, it's the same. It's doing the same thing as a slider, as a knuckleball does. It just you see it coming and it drops at the end. So I don't think that's as egregious as some other things I've heard volleyball people. Even on ESPN Plus, people that don't do their homework and come do volleyball. It's like, ooh.
I don't think I say spike. I say finishes at the net. That's how
Finish
I
is
say it.
cool. I got yelled at one time by a college coach while I was doing YSU because I was saying tip for the off the block. So if a ball gets hit and it gets off the block, I was saying that's a tip, and they were like, "Well, no, you use tip for the offensive, tipping it over the net. You use something else for when a defender hits the ball off their hands. You don't use tip." Then that's nitpicky by a college coach that wants their broadcast at the highest level possible. But it happens to the best of us. Sometimes you just learn. But back to the question in hand, wrestling wise, is there anything that you've heard announcers say that just gives you the ick?
Heard announcers say, I don't know. So when I watch, it's a lot of college Division I wrestling, and those guys are pretty good. They know the nomenclature, they know what they're talking about. But people in general, like people that don't know the sport, parents will come up and want to know who their kid's fighting. Nobody, ma'am, your kid's not fighting anyone. They're wrestling this person or that person. I heard a parent once of a kid say that their kid's shoulders weren't down for 3 seconds. That is the WWE. That is not high school wrestling. It just, they have to be flat for a certain part of the back, and a square has to be flat for a second, not 3 seconds. And she was throwing a fit, yelling at the referee that he was not down for 3 seconds. Things like that, which they're just things when you don't know the sport, the words just kind of come out like that because you don't know how to, you don't know how to word what you're thinking. People saying he's not flat. You don't have to be necessarily flat. Your just shoulders have to be touching. So it's little things like that. I don't think I've ever heard a broadcast blow it. The one thing that makes me cringe and get irritated is when they call a move something else, which happens a lot because each area of the country has different names for different moves, and some areas call it one thing. There's a move around here that we call a cement mixer that in the middle of the country, in the western part of the country, they call it a cow catcher. And every time I hear the word cow catcher, the hair on the back of my head stands up. Like, that's just such a weird word. I get it. It looks like somebody wrestling a bull, a bull ride or whatever, somebody wrestling down a bull, but we call it something different. And there are different names for things. I guess that's when it would make me cringe the most, when you hear a term and you're like, that's not what that's called. And the kids will even argue that sometimes, and I have to tell them, hey, some places call moves different than we call it. So, we call a head and arm a cowboy. Other places call it a headlock, things like that.
Cement mixture just sounds so much more intimidating. I like that one a lot better than
Well, and then
cow
what we
catcher.
call a gator roll is what those guys call a cement mixer.
Okay.
So it gets. I could talk all day about the differences in the names of the moves, but single leg, double leg, half, those are all universal.
If you're ever playing the Laurel Gators, it's always going to be a gator roll. All right, you have to use it. If you're playing if you're in the SEC, playing Florida, got to be a gator roll. I don't know how good Florida's wrestling program is, but if you're playing Florida in wrestling, you got to make it a gator roll.
I don't know any Gators, any Gator high school teams. I know Eastern
Laurel,
Gateway.
that's the only one I know up there in Shaker Heights.
Laurel.
Yeah.
Okay. I've never had to call a game with them,
Right.
but I haven't heard of any other high school Gators.
Yeah, no, Gators is not a common. I can't even think of anyone except the University of Florida that's a Gator. Scotty, can you think of anyone that's a Gator?
No.
Well, you know what? No, Eastern Gateway. Shout out to Eastern Gateway, the Gators. Can't forget about them.
Oh.
Yeah. Wasn't Adam Sandler's team in the Water Boy? Were they Gators?
No, they were the Mud Dogs, right?
Oh, okay.
Right?
There was a Gator in the movie. I couldn't remember.
Oh yeah, no, Water Boy. He my mama said, the alligators cry because they have overactive tear ducts.
Yeah, there you go.
Something like that. Mama's wrong. Let's go over. Let's see if there's any other wrestling on the week. Because we have 3 on Thursday. On Saturday, we do have wrestling. Chris Colucci gonna be in Waterloo for the MVAC championships. Going down there for the Vikings hosting. Waterloo is a great place to wrestle. You've been there plenty of times. What do you think about the MVAC this year and the MVAC championships at Waterloo?
It'll be interesting. Coach John down there, he always hosts a good tournament. He's a good guy. It'll be competitive. I don't know who would be the favorite in that. What teams off the top of your head, Anthony, are
Jackson
in that?
Milton's in there. I don't know what teams have. I apologize. I don't know what teams.
No, go ahead.
But Jackson Milton, Springfield, Western Reserve, and then I don't know both tiers too. So you have Crestview, Liberty, Garrettsville, Garfield, Champion if they have wrestling.
Most of those teams have wrestling. Garfield is the favorite. That's
Newton
the favorite.
Falls.
Right
I don't know if they divide them in tiers. I don't know if they do that.
But I think they do. But they in the wrestling tournament they wrestle both tiers at once. Right. So yeah, Garrettsville, Garfield though they're far and away the best team in that.
And they have Keegan Cell,
Yeah.
They have
defending state champ there. He'll be the favorite. The end of the season always sees the leagues get their tournaments in, and it's a commitment you have to make. So I can see that Garrettsville running away with that one. Scotty, but Jackson Milton will probably have a good showing as well.
Waterloo always has a good team too. You can't never count out the host team. They always want to represent on their home floor. Scotty, I want to get you in the conversation before we end the episode. Do you have any questions of the week for Gary?
Yeah, Gary, I was just wondering, you were talking about the good things that wrestling can bring and like the rivalries and stuff like that could come of it. Are rivalries like this might sound like a silly question because you're a coach. So on one hand, I think you're definitely gonna say yes. But do you ever feel like rivalries with wrestling because it's like more of a like just two guys or girls going against each other and the physicality and being in shape? Do you think it's even more? There's certain rivalries that are even more special in wrestling because you got the one-on-one factor.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you'll see that in wrestling. A lot of the rivalries are two kids going at it. Don't get me wrong. There are definitely teams that are rivals. So if you get two teams that are rivals, they're rivals at every sport, or, maybe it's just a wrestling thing. And then in that, there's a big match where, okay, it's great. We've got this rivalry with the teams here going at it with each other. They want to, both teams want to win, but then within that, you've got 1 or 2 matches of kids who have maybe split with each other, where they've both beat each other or something like that. That can make it even more exciting. So you've got the buzz going just from the match itself. And then there's always going to be a couple matches where people are pointing to and saying, boy, this one will be a good one. That one will be a good one. These guys are 1-on-1 against each other. You could definitely see that.
All right, that is going to do it for episode 10 of Wrestling Wednesday. Reminder, we have 3 wrestling matches on the network tomorrow night from Edgewood, from Orange, and then Chris Colucci will also be in West Branch for the rivalry down there with Salem. It'll be in Salem, West Branch at Salem. And then we have wrestling on the weekend, MVAC Championships from Waterloo. Chris Colucci will be there as well. Follow the YSN Wrestling Instagram account. We have a countdown to state going up, and I want to remind everyone that if you have a picture of yourself at state, send it to that account, YSN_wrestling on Instagram, and we'll include it into the graphic for the countdown we have. I believe we're on, 30 days till state? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, actually we are. Yeah, because sectionals are the 24th.
Mm-hmm.
That's 2 weeks from Saturday, and then 2 weeks from then is the state tournament.
So we're going to have some fun. Countdown to State continues, and Wrestling Wednesday continues next week for episode 11 coming up next week. Thank you so much for tuning in to Wrestling Wednesday. We're going to take a commercial break. When we come back on Running Point, we will go over the games from last night on the basketball court, and we will also see what's on Scotty's mind today. Sometimes it's dangerous, so stick around. We'll be right back on Running Point. Brought to you, as always, by our good friends over at Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown.
21 News delivers the news as it happens, using the latest technology from where it happens.
Live here outside the Mahoney County.
On air, online,
Wednesday afternoon weather update.
Very dangerous.
and on the 21 News social media platforms.
I'm on the road right now.
21 News, the Valley's only locally owned source for trusted news since 1953.
Craftsmanship to us is 60 years of pride and dedication.
Passed down from generation to generation.
The hardwood floors that your kids take their first steps on.
The solid wood doors you quietly close at night.
The things we create day in and day out are the products that end up turning your house into a home.
At Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods, uncompromising quality and craftsmanship built our business.
And it will keep us moving forward for generations to come.
Going the extra mile at Greenwood Chevrolet means we want to take care of the community that takes care of us too.
And we have to work together always. And that's how you stay in business for 40 years.
You know, I love being a helper because when I help somebody, it makes me feel good.
It means a lot that I can make a difference in others' lives.
So I will do everything I can and just being there for them every step of the way.
I want them to know within the first 5 minutes that they could depend on me. That's what going the extra mile means, only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
Before the lights come on, before the workday begins, before a long day is ended, or it's time to have fun, it all starts with the people at Joe Dickey Electric. From replacing a light fixture in your home to building a substation for your business, no job is too big or too small. The people of Joe Dickey Electric power them all. Joe Dickey Electric, over 60 years of powering the Mahoning Valley.
Welcome back to Running Point on ysnlive.com, brought to you as always by our good friends over at Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. Now that it's a 2-box, I don't need that little logo. We have the big one, so I'm going to take that off the top right-hand corner of the screen real quick. Scotty Mincher with me here on a Wednesday. We are the Sniffle Brothers today, buddy. How we doing? We getting through?
For sure. I'm
man.
Through. I have a lot of Kleenex.
Did he get your Kleenex in on the commercial break?
Yeah.
Oh man, aren't we a pair in the pod? Let's go into the scoreboard from last night and recap the action. Scotty, I'm not going to put you on the spot because you're sick, and so am I. So we're just going to roll with the scoreboard, which is presented by Burnett Pools, Spas, and Hot Tubs. I'm going to scroll up so you can see their logo real quick. The YSN scoreboard is a great tool for the YSN fan, whether you're at one of the games or watching one of our broadcasts or even better, both, because there's no better use of your time than checking out a YSN broadcast while you're sitting at a game. Either way, you don't want to look away from the action for too long, and the YSN scoreboard is a quick and easy way to find live updated scores from around the YSN family, whether it be your favorite team, one of your friends, or maybe one of your rivals. You can find live updated scores on the scoreboard. You don't have to wait until midnight for scores to come in, and we have a hard-working team behind the scenes that makes sure that it's as live updated as possible. Let's start with the OVAC tournament as East Liverpool got into an offensive battle with St. Clairsville. Look at the points scored in this one, 96-81, looking like an NBA score. As well, I guess nowadays it'd be more in the hundreds now. There are not many under 100 NBA scores nowadays. Looking like a 1990s NBA score, I guess you could say. St. Clairsville wins over East Liverpool 96-81. East Liverpool will now play Beaver Local in a consolation game on Friday in the OVAC because Beaver Local fell to Harrison Central 70-61, the final score there. Both those games pretty dang competitive. Beaver Local, every quarter was good, but Harrison Central just slowly but surely kept building that lead. They won the first quarter by like 1, the second quarter by like 2, maybe the third quarter by 4. You know, that kind of game where it was like you're right there, but you just couldn't break the ceiling for Beaver Local. Kept it close the whole time, though. In the NE8, we go down to Hubbard, where the Eagles hosted Lakeview, and Hubbard gets the close win, 54-51, the final score there. Newton Falls is able to hold off Brookfield, 53-42, the final score in the MVAC gray tier. Also in the gray tier, we saw Liberty beat Champion, 57-43, and will stay in the gray tier as Garfield protects their home court against Crestview, 62-40. Overtime thriller in Beloit, Scotty, as West Branch gets out of it with a 73-71 overtime victory over East. I was in Niles where the Dragons had to hold off a furious comeback from Gerard and win by 10. Now, I know usually you wouldn't see a 10-point finish and think comeback, but Niles had a 22-point lead after 3 quarters of play. Gerard got as close as 8, just didn't have enough gas to get all the way back, but it was a heck of an effort from the Indians to get back in that game and make Niles really sweating out in the fourth quarter. Howland and Canfield getting together, and it's the Cardinals with a win. 46-36, the final score there for Canfield. Their defense shining the brightest at Howland. The big one in the MVAC Great Deer, with first place on the line between LeBray and Camel. It's LeBray getting the win, 56-51. They take first place in the MVAC Great Tier. A big win for the Vikings. Lakeside travels to Conneaut, and the Spartans fall to Lakeside on the road. At home. Jeez. I'm sick, all right? Give me a break. 96-50. Lakeside gets the win over Conneaut. Lisbon travels to Heartland Christian, and they fall for just the first time in the state of Ohio. Their other losses were in Florida during their trip over Christmas break. So for the first time this year, an Ohio team beats Lisbon 70-64. The Blue Devils still undefeated in the EOAC, so everything still in front of them there, but that's a loss that they're going to have to bounce back from. Lowville, your Rockets, Scotty, they get the win over Sebring 60-34. Salem and Southfield was canceled last night, so no score there. In the first place matchup between Springfield and Waterloo, it is Springfield getting the win, 53-42 final there. Poland clinches the NE8 championship outright with a 41-37 win over Struthers. There's a chance that both the boys and girls teams could win an outright NE8 championship. If the girls beat Hubbard on Monday, they will both be outright NE8 champions. Valley Christian's able to hold off United at home, 56-42. Final score there. East Palestine beats the Urban Scholars, 79-63. We have Middle Ridge falling to Western Reserve, 51-44. Glen Oak beats Austintown Fitch in a 3-point thriller, 53-50. Tough one for the Falcons. We have McDonald. They were able to host Jackson Milton. They get the win 73-64. Grand Valley gets the win over Matthews the Battle of the Mustangs, 55-51, Grand Valley on top. Homan goes to green, gets a win over the Bulldogs, 64-45. Orange AFK and Gilmore Academy is now going to be played on Saturday at 2, so that game got moved. We have Beaver Area getting the win over Ambridge, 73-53. We have Badger getting the win over St. Thomas Aquinas, 64-58. Orange Falls to Crestwood, 76-58, the final score there. We have Jefferson. They go and win over Harvey, 66-54. Edgewood falls to Madison on the road, 75-56. Mooney goes to Warren Harding and wins 58-48. St. John falls to Wyndham, 56-23. And in hockey, in overtime, Canfield gets the win over Chagrin Falls. It should say 4-3 there in OT. Canfield gets the dub. And they are moving on in the hockey tournament. All right, Scotty, what stood out the most on the scoreboard for you?
I think when you look at it, to me, what stood out the most in a lot of these games, I think, is the fight that team showed. You mentioned the fight that Gerard gave Niles in that one, and being down by over 20 points, and then eventually cutting it to an 8-point lead. You had some other close battles all around on the scoreboard as well. And I thought Western Reserve winning in a tight one against Mineral Ridge, I thought that was a really impressive victory as well. And then Grand Valley also, what they were able to do in squeaking one out, getting a 4-point win over Matthews. So I guess for me, it's just a lot of these games were very entertaining, closely contested. I really, another game I really kept an eye on was Cardinal, Mooney, and Harding, and I thought that was entertaining as well. That didn't disappoint with Mooney getting the 10-point victory there. So all in all, I thought these teams showed a lot of fight. There were some ones that were, it, they were decisive victories, but a lot of these down to the wire. So,
yeah, a lot of them down to the wire, and I like to see the. Excuse me, I want to talk about the game I was at for a little bit because, man, it looked like Niles was just running away with it. They had control of this game all the way through. And then it was like a flip just got switched. And all of a sudden, all the Gerard's shots were falling. And all of a sudden, here we are with like 2 minutes left. It was an 8-point game, which means, you have a shot. Down by 8 with 2 minutes. Like you can still go out and win that game. Now, Niles finished. So props to the Dragons for hitting some clutch free throws and finishing down the stretch and not letting that get into the chaotic scene what would have been if Gerard came back from a 22-point fourth quarter deficit, which would be the biggest comeback I've ever seen. I don't know if you've ever seen personally a comeback better than that in basketball, but especially in my broadcast career in high school, I don't think I've ever seen a team be down by 22 in the end of 3 and come back to win that game.
yeah, and really for them to be able to cut it to single digits and still have those 2 minutes to play. But like you said, the thing about it is when you have to come back from such a large deficit like that, you consume a lot of and it takes up a lot of energy. So it's hard to climb like all.
Especially because I think what people don't talk about, Scotty, is to get to that point they were playing very high intensity defense, running the floor, trying to trap everything. That's a lot of energy to expend on the defensive side to try to force turnovers and gamble a little bit. So they were doing a good job, but you could tell their legs just kind of ran out of gas in the last 2 minutes. But I was talking another factor. I was talking to Anthony Budak after, and his post game interview can be found on our YouTube and on the story at ysnlive.com. But he was saying, like, he brought up the point that we hadn't been in that situation before where we were up by that much, where we just had to kind of play stall ball almost and just try to use the clock as our friend. He said every game we've won so far has been like a close one where we've had to go down the stretch and go back and forth. They weren't used to being in a situation where they were up by 22 in the fourth and just really had to play clean basketball and work the clock. They were still in aggressive attack mode when coaching-wise and strategic-wise they probably shouldn't have been. But then again, I think Coach Harden would love them to always be in aggressive mode with the season they've had. But at the same time, like I said, I don't think Niles was used to being up by that much in the fourth quarter.
No, and that's the thing it's great to have a lead like that, but it's really hard when you do have a lead like that because you want to keep your aggression and keep your foot on the gas, but also, like you said, at that point the clock is your friend, so you want to play smart and just don't make any big time mistakes. And I think it's just human nature when you get a big lead like that to kind of just take it easy for a
And
little bit.
those aggressive plays really came against the trap where there was an easy play there that would have just been conservative to keep eating clock. But Niles it felt like they were still down in that game, even though they were up by 22, because every time they got trapped, they would try to go for the home run pass that would lead to an easy bucket if they were able to complete it. But it was really a high percentage of that pass was either going to get picked off or go out of bounds when they could have just thrown it off to the side, taken a little bit of time off the clock and gone with the conservative play. That's something that they obviously will learn. And if they get in that situation again this year, they'll be ready for it. Niles with the impressive victory. They felt like they should have won the first matchup between these two teams in Girard, and they lost by a buzzer beater. So they were able to get revenge. I know it's been a struggle season for both those teams, but it's nice to see Niles go out and get a win on senior night and represent their seniors well with a win at home over a team that they feel like they should have beat the first time around, but they did lose in a buzzer beater. Scotty, we have some time, buddy. Now I'm going to ask the ever dangerous question. What is on your mind today?
Well, okay, I figured since the big game is Sunday and I'm not going to talk to you after today until after the game, I wanted your thoughts on some things here. I guess first off, I just wanted your opinion on the. It seems like there's a lot of Taylor Swift hate out there, and I just wanted. I would assume that you're all aboard the Taylor Swift train. I don't know if you're like a full fledged like Swifty, like diehard fan, but I would assume you've jumped on board. But what do you think? There seems to be a lot of this animosity. Do you think it's just more because the Chiefs have been so good and now she's like kind of synonymous with Kansas City and their success? Or do you think it's because people just get jealous at people that are highly successful and that kind of become stars and have the fame?
I think there are a couple of factors to it, and we could go into a deep dive and we could say why society does this and this and this and this and this. But I think one factor is it's the Chiefs. Like people are already kind of sick of the Chiefs. They don't want the Chiefs to win. Again, we're anti-dynasty in a sports culture. We've talked about this. Sports fans generalized don't like dynasties. They want you to be good for a couple of years, and then quietly just go away and let someone else be good. So we can have variety. We want a variety in our sports, consummation. But then I also think you either You either like Taylor Swift's music or you don't. There's not a lot of people that are like, man, it's all right. I'll listen to a few songs, but you're either a person that is a fan of the music. You don't have to be a huge Swiftie, but you're either a fan of the music or you're the opposite. Like, I don't like that type of music. It's country with a pop twist. Not really a fan of it. And usually that's, the people that like the hard rock or the people that like the hip hop are usually the ones that kind of skew away from that style of music. And I think that's a factor. I think the fact that the NFL and the broadcast booths have leaned into it. I do want to say that there are a lot of people hating the NFL for the way the broadcasts handle how much they show her, which really isn't that much. If you dive into the math, they're not really showing her all that much, considering. I think there was some people that were saying like they showed food from the tailgate in Baltimore, like 2 seconds less than they showed Taylor Swift in the AFC Championship game. So, but I regress back to my point where it's not the NFL. NFL has no one in that broadcast truck saying, I think you should show Taylor Swift again. It's the producer. It's the producer of the broadcast. So if you want to be mad at someone for showing her after a play, direct that anger towards the production truck and the broadcast crew in the truck, the producer, the director, because they're the ones making those decisions. And that's why every broadcast network handles it a little bit differently. Like you'll see NBC, if Taylor Swift is at a game for NBC, it'll be shown a little bit in different ways. CBS different ways, Fox different ways, because they're different crews with different broadcasts and different producers that want to do it in different ways. So let's direct that. If you're angry about that, want to be fair and say it's not the NFL that's doing it; it's the broadcast team and the broadcast company. The NFL already got their money from the broadcast crew, right? It's okay. And all this money for our TV deals, you handle the broadcast however you want to handle it. We got our money. We're okay. So now the broadcast companies are trying to make that money by leading into the Taylor Swift thing because it sells advertisement. But the CBS, the networks make the advertising money, not the NFL. So want to be particular about that. But yeah, you know what? When it comes down to it, I'm not like a diehard Swiftie that reads into everything she does and wants to know, what Taylor's up to 24/7. And I'm not going to go to war on social media if someone talks bad about her. But, I like her music. I think it's good. I think most of her songs are listenable. And there are actually some songs that I really, really like. So, yeah, I'll go with it. I'll admit it. I'm a fan.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. Like
her concert seems really cheap now when you look at the Super Bowl prices.
Oh man, it's
like 17,000, cheapest like on like face value seat for the Super Bowl. It's like
that is just
you have to mortgage your own home to go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
now there are people reselling them that aren't like astronomically, but it would be ultra expensive for the Joe Schmo to go to the Super Bowl. You have to know somebody. You have to be in one of those businesses that gets the complimentary tickets, or you have to have a lot of money, or you're just not going to the Super Bowl. Or you have to make that life decision that you're going to be struggling for a couple of years.
Yeah, like
throw
everything,
which I know people do. Or you can do what the Chiefsaholic fan does. I'm sure you've heard about that this season. Go rob some banks.
Oh, I did hear about that. Yeah.
That was one of the wildest stories I've ever heard in my life, Scotty. A Chiefs fan that is like the FBI can't catch him. He's a master bank thief that is, wanted for bank robbery in like 5 different states, and he's using the money to go to Chiefs games. It's like, what in the world?
It is really
like the robbery is consistent with the state that the Chiefs were playing in. I was like, what's going on here?
Yeah, that's man.
There was a manhunt for this guy. He was in the forest somewhere. He's like the ultimate criminal is just a diehard Chiefs fan that's trying to find a way to the games. Woo!
He doesn't lack for creativity. Give him that. But
Scotty, if the Browns were in the Super Bowl, how far would you go to get a ticket? Like, what kind of things would you do or how much would you be willing to sacrifice for a ticket to a Browns Super Bowl? I'm going to ask you that.
I mean, it would be really awesome. I mean, like a once in a lifetime type experience. But I myself, like, I'd be just I'd be just as content, me personally, like just being there for the game, like not necessarily having to go into the game, but being there and whatever.
So like if the Browns ran it this year, you would be happy just going to Vegas and being a part of the hoopla, and then watching it at some like bar or some club or something, and being
Yeah,
part of that atmosphere.
exactly. Like I don't know if I'd want to spend like thousands upon thousands. Like it's because you could have a situation like with the Buffalo Bills where they go against Dallas and they just get like housed. So like I don't know.
What if it wasn't financial? What if someone came to you and said something like, "We'll pay for your Browns game, but you have to give up." Let's just say, like, I don't know what you do for hobbies or whatever, but like you have to be, your life for the next year has to be a little bit more bland than it is now. Like you have to give up something in your life, or you have to give up, buying something that you like to buy, or whatever it may be. Would you be willing to make that trade, or is it not worth it?
Yeah, I would bite that bullet. I would suffer a couple of years to see because you just never know if your team's gonna have that chance again. Get back.
Even the Chiefs, everyone's saying, well, they're going to be right back. They're just a dynasty. It's like, well, you just never know when your time's up. You just don't. They could get into the AFC Championship 3 years in a row and not make it to another Super Bowl. That's a possibility. So you just never know. And that's why I get so amped up when they're in it. And I know people roll their eyes like, oh, Chiefs fans, you're spoiled. You got in there, oh, you're getting excited again. So what? But it's like that's the reality. Like you don't know when it's going to end eventually. No, nothing lasts forever. Look at the Patriots. I mean, it was a long, long run where they were either in the Super Bowl or in the conversation. But even that ended, and now they're firing Bill Belichick, and it's a new era of New England sports. So everything's at an end. You have to soak it in as a fan. You have to enjoy it. Like you gotta love that your team's in the Super Bowl. And if you're one of those people out there that is mad at Chiefs fans for getting excited about being in a Super Bowl again because that you think that it should just be another day for us at this point, I'm sorry. Like you can't take stuff for granted.
How far would you go? Like say you could there was a way you could make it, you could get to the Super Bowl, but say like you just for years after that you had like your chair was like from like the 1970s.
Your chair sucks. Right after the Super Bowl, someone comes and takes it away.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Can you imagine? Like right after the Super Bowl was over, someone comes in, takes your chair away, and puts you in a crappy one and says, "There you go. You had your fun. Now I have 2 years of this rinky-dink one from the 30s. Good luck with that." Or this, these airport wheelchairs that are just like a leather flap, and that's all you get.
Yeah.
No footrests.
Would you
I would not do that.
The game?
No, I would not sacrifice the chair. No way. You know what though? I'm a guy because of my vision. I don't have as much fun at a game as I do watching it with a bunch of people. Like I would rather be in Kansas City for the Super Bowl and go to like a big watch party with a bunch of Chiefs fans where it's on the big screen and I can see everything that's happening. I love being at the Arrowhead, but if it wasn't like in that atmosphere where it's at one of our home games, I kind of would be like, I'd be like you. I'd actually have more fun watching it at I'm sure there are Chief watch parties in Las Vegas. I would hit up there, and I'd probably enjoy it a little bit more than actually being in the Super Bowl because odds are I'm not going to be able to see much of what's going on anyway if I'm in the stadium. It's just the reality of my situation.
Yeah, and that's even for me. I don't have like you have more difficulty with your eyesight.
Y'all, if you don't know, I'm blind. Like, I am legally blind without my glasses, and with my glasses, I'm not much better. Like, I think it's like 22-20 without them, which, if you don't know, is like for every 20 feet, something's away from me. My eyes look like it's 220 feet away. So do the math. If it's like 60 feet away from me, you do 220 times 3, and that's how far it looks. No. That's not fun. And then with my glasses, it's like, oh, you made it 190 maybe. Like, you're barely not legally blind. Congratulations. So yeah, like when I went to Arrowhead, I was in the first level, top of the first level. The only time I could really see what was going on was when they were like from the 20-yard line in on my side of the field. Everything else, I was like, good thing there's a TV right there because I can't see diddly squat.
And then you always have the big plays when everyone is
right. I'm reacting to the crowd. Like I'll always be late because I'm like, oh, we're cheering. Let's go. I don't know what happened, but we're cheering. Or I'll see everyone around me get really upset. And I'll be like, well, guess we just screwed up. That happened a lot because the game I went to, we lost. So
that was against the Bills.
It was the Bills regular season game last year, and it was a good game, but we lost by 3.
Wow.
They can celebrate all the regular season wins they want.
Yeah, you get them. They haven't got you in the playoffs.
You know, regular season champions, baby. Congratulations, Buffalo.
You call Poe up. How do you?
I'm gonna call. How you feel about that, bro? Yeah. Woo. That's it. All right, Scotty. I want to end this show, and I want to remind everybody that the broadcast tonight can be found at ysnlive.com/live. We have a handful of basketball games on the network, a little bit lighter than most because it's Wednesday, and Wednesday is a little bit of a lighter day, but there are still games to be had and games to be seen. ysnlive.com/live is where you can find them. We will be back on Running Point. Me and Scotty will be back next week. I will be back tomorrow from 1 to 2. Y'all, hopefully these sniffles go away, man. Hopefully next week your sniffles are gone. Hopefully tomorrow this is just a one-day thing and I can take some congestion meds and get rid of it because it ain't exactly fun to constantly wipe your nose like ew, gross. Ew. Get Kleenex on your commercial breaks like crazy. So we'll be back tomorrow from 1 to 2. Scotty will be back next week. Scotty, thanks so much for joining us today. And for everyone else, we'll see you tomorrow. Have fun with all the broadcast. Running Point, as always, brought to you